All right, welcome everyone. This is the Scio Township Environmental Sustainability Task Force meeting for June 6th. And with that, are there any additions to our agenda? Seeing none, then we'll move ahead. Any communication or correspondence that people would like to report? The only one is we did get our official word that we did get silver for Michigan Green Communities, and we have a logo that we can use that I forwarded to Mary Gillis. So that's kind of cool. And then with that, I'll open it up for public comment.
Reactions. Yes, sorry. I didn't realize I'd unmuted myself first as I'm talking. Okay, where's the reactions? I just want to say, Jeff, is this your presentation on the composting program?
It is part of the community composting initiative that our group is working on, yes.
Okay, I'm really excited.
This is not my presentation, but it's an option. Yep.
Okay, I'm really excited to hear about it. Okay, thank you. Looking forward to it. That's it.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Okay, seeing no unmutes, and we run this relatively informally. So if you have a question or whatever, anyone's welcome to raise their hand. So with that, we'll get on to the presentation of small-scale pilot composting with the Michigan Consulting and Environmental Group. So welcome. We're glad you're here. So Jeff, if you wanted to give kind of an introduction, that'd be great. And then, or Charlie, either one. And then we can go ahead, and I'll just make sure everything's set up for sharing too.
And I'm going to defer to Jeff because he made the original contact.
Sure.
We all got to know each other about a week ago pretty well. So we all had a Zoom meeting together.
So I met Haley at the Island Lake Triathlon, where I was working the zero waste station, and she was running it, and she came over just to sing the praises of a zero waste event. And after basking in that glory for a few minutes, I asked what she did, and she said she's with Michigan Consulting Environmental, and they do all kinds of good things, partnering with communities. And I said, oh, really? So when I got back, I gave it some thought, and I said, you know, Materials and Waste Group is working on a community composting initiative, and we've been bouncing various ideas back and forth, but nothing's really gained any traction yet. Maybe we should reach out to these guys, and because they've already done something for Canton Township, let's see what their model is and see if they can partner with us and get something off the ground. So I asked Haley if she would be interested in telling us a little bit more about what her organization does and their history with Canton Township, and she said yes, and brought in Mike, and here we are. So you want to take it away, Haley?
Sure. I emailed some slides. I can try to share my screen. I don't know if it'll let me, but I'll try to get that set up.
It should be good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Can you see my? Fantastic. Also, I apologize in advance if you can hear the dog in the background. She's very upset I shut the door on her. So if you hear that, that's what that is. So really quick before I get started with my presentation, I was at an Eagle conference yesterday, and they were talking about waste streams, and just some numbers that I learned that I thought were pretty jarring. In 2022, there were 52 million cubic yards of material sent to the landfill. Of that material, over 50% is compostable, and 21% of that is food scraps. So there's a lot of food scraps being sent to the landfill. So I figured that was something to be mindful of for sure. So my slides are a little bit about what we talked about last week with Jeff and Charlie. And then I have a couple slides on the design of Canton's program and some numbers as well. So, and here is my email and phone number if anybody has any questions after this recording or meeting, and I emailed the slides over as well.
Go ahead, Bob.
Question, Bob.
Haley, can you make that presentation size. I don't know if your view will do that.
Yeah. That
It
looks
gets
good.
rid of the header too, if you do a presentation.
Yeah, these are in a, let me try,
You may not be able to, I'm just asking if you could.
let me,
Yeah, it looks like these are a
I'll open
PDF.
up the PowerPoint version rather
But it
than
might
the
be under-
PDF version, and that should let me.
It might be under view at the top.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Does that work?
You
Sure.
probably have to reshare, but this is,
Oh.
we can read this pretty well. But if you want to share the PowerPoint, you'll have to reshare. I've got to go help mom, but I'll be back.
Okay, Jen.
Is that better?
Yep.
That's perfect.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's good.
So.
Sorry to slow you down.
Last week, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So last week we discussed two separate approaches that, just as options. The first is there's a farm located in Scio Township that has expressed interest in the past. They do some on-site for composting for their farm, is my understanding, but that was a option that was kind of earmarked for if Scio Township wanted to develop a composting site within their community and where they would do all of the processing. So if that's the approach that is chosen, we figured start small sample size, 100 to 200 volunteers perhaps, and maybe that can be changed based on interest. We kind of thought to get the word out, maybe hosting a community day at the farm. So have kind of like how some townships have hazardous waste days or residential waste days. There's one day set up, bring all your food waste, we'll teach you about it, you can see the process, and try to garner in some interest, and then we'll see if people would be interested in this program.
Haley, you might
so-
want to clarify. By volunteers, you mean participating households, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
not
the pilot
volunteers to work
study-
the farm. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Good point. So the pilot study would be volunteers for participating. So we like to have people sign up for data points so we can keep track of approximately how much food waste is being dropped off per household, per participant, per volunteer. So we can, kind of figure out the viability of the program for the township. So it's primarily, it is a volunteer-based program. And then for this specifically, hauling would, if we have a compost site within the community, the hauling from the drop-off sites to the farm would have to be managed by the township itself. A lot of outside haulers, it can get a little hairy with potential sources of contamination, cross-contamination between communities. So that is one thing to keep in mind if we go inside the community route. If it became a permanent program, the main concern would be some sort of permanent hauling program or structure, and then making sure the farm has the proper equipment, the proper manpower that is necessary in order to turn that food waste, turn it into a proper compost material product. Because it's a little more involved than just having a pile. It has to be worked and it has to be set up in a way that, the wind has to be down gradient and the wind has to go through the rows, not across the rows. So there's a whole bunch that goes into the design of the program, of the piles itself. Not only that, there's a lot of permitting and regulations that through the state, and especially with the new Part 115, they're kind of cracking down on some more rules for these facilities. So a site that is completely enclosed, so the materials being composted are coming only from their property, and the compost materials only being used on the property, those aren't regulated. But if the second you have food waste or compostable materials coming from off-site to the composting site, or you have compost product leaving site, that's when you get into the weeds with the regulations and the permitting. And not only do you have to follow Part 115 permitting, which they regulate the actual compost facilities or recycling facilities, you also have to follow the water resource divisions, permits and requirements, and the air quality. So I believe that's part 31 and part 55 of the Michigan's regulations. So that's something to keep in mind. If a permanent compost site, if the plan is to develop one within the community, there's a lot of regulations and newer regulations that will have to be followed. And it also depends on the size of the site. So if it's 500 cubic yards, and just to kind of put that into perspective, one typical shipping container is about 100 cubic yards. So a site that is 500 cubic yards is considered a small site by the state. And if you're operating that, you have to notify Eagle of your operations. And if you're 500 to 1,000 cubic yards, you have to notify Eagle of your operations. If you're operating from 1,000 to 10,000 cubic yards, then you have to register your site with Eagle. And then if you're doing greater than 10,000 cubic yards, then you need general permitting. So it depends on the size, how much Eagle has to regulate, how much Eagle has to be involved. But just because you might be smaller than 500 doesn't mean that you can't be subject to, if there's air quality complaints, Eagle can step in. If the water, the leachate is mismanaged, Eagle can step in. So just because you might not fall into the 10,000 category, there are situations that could, default you into those categories. So just a little bit about the regulations. I know that's the part that nobody ever wants to talk about, but it's important.
Hey, Haley,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Back up to the pilot study, what do you mean by internal hauling managed by the
I just
town?
mean that there are some waste haulers like My Green Michigan where they collect food waste and they cart it to Spur Industries, which is a compost facility in Wixom. I just mean we couldn't use one of those already set haulers because of cross-contamination problems.
Right.
The community itself would have to develop their own type of hauling. So if we have drop-off facilities throughout the community and it's being transported to the farm, Scio Township will have to figure out how to move that volume of food waste.
So
So I
you're,
think the word internal means internal to the township. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep, that's correct.
Yes.
And Tim, this is assuming that we have more than one drop-off site. If it all goes to the
Yes.
farm, all is good. But if we set a compost collection or food waste collection bin at a school, we'd have to figure out a way within the township to transport that to the farm.
Correct.
Hmm.
So the second approach, are there any other questions? Okay.
um,
The second approach,
so, okay, pilot study volunteer. I'll wait till you're done, Haley.
okay. The second approach is more kind of what we did with Canton. So we talked about, this is kind of two half approaches rolled into one. We have the curbside option and the drop-off site option. So curbside is going to be your most expensive option, giving every resident a bin, and then you have the issue with congestion in the streets because you're having you have your garbage trucks. If you do recycling, you have recycling trucks. Then you have to have another type of truck for the food waste. And you're gonna have to have more because food waste is heavier, so you can't fill the trucks with food waste because it messes with the weight limits. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you want to do curbside. It's expensive and the congestions. And it's just one more hauler to have going through the streets. So if you wanted to do a drop-off site, which is what we have at Canton, you could potentially do more than 200 volunteers. You could open it up to more people. You don't have to, but it's an option. It'll probably be less expensive because you won't have to purchase the equipment and have more manpower on the site. We have multiple drop-off sites throughout the community, so they're open 24/7. They're kind of at the convenience of the volunteers. So, if they're going to the grocery store, they can just pass a drop-off site and drop their food off whenever it works for them. And then for Canton, we use My Green Michigan. They service the bins once a week and bring it to Spur Industries in Wixom. Or another option is Tut Hill Farms. They're Ann Arbor, South Lyon area. They have their own, they're a hauler as well, so they'll pick up the food waste, take it to their facility. At that facility, they do all of the processing. So you wouldn't have to worry about the regulations, you wouldn't have to worry about the manpower, the equipment. So they handle the processing. And for Canton Township, the township pays to have some compost product brought back to the community. So the volunteers who sign up to participate in the program, they can get compost product back from the material that they're sending to the farm. Any questions on this one?
A quick question. So when you mean volunteers, they're people who are voluntarily bringing their food waste to the collection station. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
For a
Correct.
pilot,
We'll have people
for
for a pilot. Yeah, we'll have people sign up.
to see if
Sorry,
they
go ahead.
work or not, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pilot study for Canton we ran for a year. Which I'll get into that next. So I kind of went over the program's design. So we did the pilot study to figure out if it would be viable for the community, if people are interested. People were very interested. We started with 550 volunteers that signed up. And over on the right, we have this label. So every volunteer was provided with, and this is optional, but every volunteer was provided with a 2-gallon food waste collection bucket. So when they're cooking in the kitchen, they could just scrape their food scraps right into the bucket, and they were given this label. So the program that we had at Spur Industries, these are all the materials that they do accept, that they can process, and then what's not accepted. And it's pretty bare bones, but it gets the point across. And pretty much anything that's organic or edible can be composted.
How
So
long
we
has-
have 5.
Haley,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but how long has that been running, that program at Canton?
We did the pilot study through 2023, and this year we're in the process of making it a permanent program. So about a year and a half now.
Uh-huh. And the volunteers collect, did you say, in 5-gallon buckets? Yeah. That makes sense.
We give them 2-gallon buckets, but they can collect in whatever receptacle they want. If they don't want to use a 2-gallon bucket, they don't have to. That's just something that the township decided to do for their volunteers. They don't have to. If they wanted to get 5-gallon buckets, that's great. Or you could tell your volunteers, go get a 5-gallon bucket, or whatever works for them.
Yeah.
So our drop-off sites, there's 5 throughout the township, and there are 64-gallon carts. They just look like your regular trash can. But they're provided by My Green Michigan. And every week they pick up the food waste from those carts, take them to Spur Industries. And that's our partnership, is My Green Michigan and Spur Industries. And then we gave them all the labels, so they kind of have a guide of what is and is not accepted. And then the QR code, we have a survey set up. So it's just a couple questions. Which site did you drop off food waste at? How much food waste did you drop off? And they can report problems. So if they see contamination, or if there's a problem with overflow, or any problem you can think of, they could report it right then, right there at the site. And then that is sent directly to my email. So it's monitored daily. That's another optional. That's just something Canton decided to do, not a necessity.
Another question, Ann Arbor just updated their composting guidelines, and everything has to, they no longer accept BPI, but they've gone to like a CMA-W or something certification. And that's really strict, and I don't know how you enforce it. So there isn't anything like that here. BPI is good to go.
So it really depends on the composting facility. So BPI and the I don't remember the letters. They're basically the same, but BPI is lab tested. The other one is field tested. So they're both a plastic alternative that's developed from plant starches and fibers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how the testing process is. And some composting facilities accept BPI, some accept others, some don't accept any at all. So that's specific to this program and this composting facility, the BPI bags. So that would certainly be something if depending on the site, we decide if it's in the township or Tut Hill or Spurt. We would follow their requirements for sure.
Another question, Haley, you, on here you say, meat and bones is okay.
Yep.
I've been composting a long time. We never put meat in there because the animals get after it. Have you had any issues with that?
That is one of my most common questions, the meats, bones, and the dairy. So typically for a backyard compost setup, it's not at a big enough scale to be able to break down some of those materials that are a lot harder to break down. But and not every commercial composting facility can accept those materials. Spurt specifically, they can process it. They have the windrows on site and they have large machines, massive piles. And so I don't know too much about their specific process, but they're able to turn all of that material, all of those really difficult materials to break down. So it truly depends on the setup, on the farm, on the scale. But yes, that is a common question that I do get.
Tut Hill will also accept those items on the list. Yeah, but if we did something, you're right, Tim, if we did something like this at the farm on a very limited basis, we would want to keep it to the fruits and vegetables and the breads and the grains and coffee filters, that kind of thing.
For sure.
Yep. Eggshells seem to be okay.
Not in my backyard pile.
Really?
They take forever to break down. So we just have to get the process hot enough. I run a cold pile. So if we did a hot pile at the farm, then yeah, eggshells I think would work fine.
Well, eggshells actually break apart, by handling. So I don't mind having a few eggshells in my compost, but I mean, fragments.
No, they serve a couple of purposes, but Jeff, are you saying you have animals getting in there and
No, I put the eggshells into my compost tumbler and they don't break down completely. So I'll look in there like 4 or 5 months later and I still see fragments of eggshells in amongst the nice high quality compost that all the other stuff decomposes into. So I have stopped putting eggshells in my compost tumbler. But like I said, that doesn't get up to temp. I just leave that to bake in the summer sun. But if we did something like Gibbs House in Kalamazoo, they have air circulating through it and they bring their small piles up to 150 degrees. I'm pretty sure those would break down the eggshells.
For sure.
I don't think it would, not quickly anyway. Ours goes into our compost and 2-3 years later, it not that we keep the compost piles that long, but 2-3 years later in the ground, it's broken down and it serves a function of space, creates space in the soil for water movement and possible air movement, and the calcium is good too for a lot of plants. So anyway, I don't mean to make a big deal out of that. I'm just
No, that's all right.
if we did this at Mike Vestergaard's, and I think he's open to it. I've had a little bit of talk with him about it. And do you know who I'm talking about, Haley? Mike Vestergaard. He's got a farm on the farm.
We talked about the farm, yes.
Yeah, south side of the township, and he's got some. I think Project Grow, is that the name of the? Is that the name of the group that puts?
It is, yes,
Yeah.
but I don't know how far they've gotten with him.
Well, they've got a structure around the gardens, and people are growing food there, and it's a pretty nice setup. But as you know, Mike farms animals mostly, besides hay and what the animals want to eat. And he's got a lot of compost, and he mentioned, yeah, I'll put some manure in there, and that really gets it going. If you get some manure in as part of your compost, and you got enough carbonaceous stuff to put in there, it's all good. Anyway. Sorry to delay you, Haley.
No, that's absolutely okay. I'm happy. I'm open to any discussion. As far as the pests concerns, even with collecting meats and some of the really smelly products, throughout the year and a half that we've been running this at Canton, we haven't had any issues with raccoons, coyotes, we haven't had any reports or seen any signs of pests. The only time we had something that could have been an issue was there was 1 week that there were a bunch of bees in the fall. So that's part of the nice thing about having it serviced weekly. And our bins are lined with a BPI liner to try to keep the bins as clean as possible. So there's not a buildup of residue that's just cooking and stinking up the sites. So we haven't personally had any issues. I mean, that's certainly a challenge that we are willing and happy to tackle if it arises, but we don't anticipate having that problem. But
Yeah.
you never know.
Good.
And on the meats, bones, eggshells, that was set by the composting facility that we use. If that's not something that our township wants to do, that's perfectly okay. This is just an example of the program that we're currently running and what they do allow and collect, but that's flexible.
Mhm.
So for Canton, this was over the whole year. So we estimated that we had about 450 active volunteers. And we had over 160,000 pounds of food waste that was collected for those 450 volunteers. And broken down, that means on average, there were 7 pounds of food waste collected per household per week, which is a lot of food waste. And I mean, we anticipate there's probably people that aren't signed up that are putting their food waste into the buckets. And we don't know exactly how many people are participating, but that's our estimation, which is pretty impressive for the first pilot year. We're all really pleased with that number. So that's just our trend line from last year. It was very consistent. We didn't have any months that there was a spike or a drop. We thought in the winter maybe it would drop, but we didn't see that happen at all.
Just for a size comparison, though, Canton Township is about 95,000 people, I think.
Yes.
So we're about a little over 17,000. So just scale up.
Gotcha.
How many
Definitely a bigger
residents are
township,
there?
but
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just how many households are there?
Oh, good question. Hang on. I'll find out. Keep
Okay.
going.
So while she's looking that up, for 2024, we're in the process of implementing more permanent structures. So we're targeting schools and restaurants, specifically schools, as more drop-off sites, because we figured get the kids excited, help them learn, set up educational programs for them. If the kids get excited, the parents will get excited. So trying to get more people to sign up. And I mean, schools generate a lot of food waste. So we figured that's a great place to have some drop-offs.
Great. So we're at 6,000 households.
Okay.
However, there are a couple new developments that are probably going to add at least 500 in the near term, and then another, I think, 300 or so. But there is, across from the farm, there's also a school. So that's a real nice opportunity there.
Mhm.
And we did open up the volunteer. We don't have a cap anymore. We capped it for the pilot study. So, but now it's just rolling. Anybody can sign up anytime they want. And since the beginning of 2024, we've had about 500 new volunteers sign up for the program. And this is our comparison. So 2023 is the light green, 2024 is the dark green. So we're already collecting more food waste last year. This is just for Q1, but we're already collecting more food waste with the more volunteers. And as more people start signing up, we only anticipate that number getting higher. The more people, word of mouth, I get a lot of people signed up just from, hey, my friend signed up for this, or I heard my family does this. Is this something that we can do? So It's a slow progression to get everybody signed up, but hopefully we'll get there. Well, maybe not everybody, but as many people as possible.
Haley, is there any cost to the township, Canton Township? What kind of
Yes.
cost? are there?
So I don't have a slide in here about costs, but I do have some of that shared in the email. The costs are for Canton Township's program, the weekly tipping. So there's a fee for each bin in the township that they tip. And there's also a one-time purchase and drop-off fee for those collection bins. And they also pay for the buckets that they provide the volunteers. And then MCE, we manage it completely. So MCE can be as involved or as little involved as you guys want. Canton Township wanted to be pretty hands-off, so we have an email hotline that I monitor every day so residents can send questions, concerns, comments. I do a weekly inspection of every single site. So it truly depends MCE's involvement, but if there is involvement, whether it's in program design or management, there would be a fee for us as well, but it's dependent on the specific design of the program.
Go ahead, Pam.
Thank you. My question is, how many homes in Canton are on well and septic? My home is well and septic, and so I can't put food scraps. I don't have a garbage disposal. I have to throw my scraps out. And so I'm wondering how many of the households that come to you actually have garbage disposals and could put it down the sink versus how many don't? Does that make sense?
Honestly, that's a great question, and I've never considered that. I'm definitely gonna write that down to ask because I'm really curious now.
Well, you commented that 21% goes to the garbage dump is food scraps. And so my first thought was, okay, what areas have to throw their food scraps out, like myself, because I don't compost yet. And so, yeah, so that's kind of my question. Thank you. Thank you for future answers.
Yeah, I will certainly look into that. I mean, those were numbers from an Eagle 2022 audit, so I don't know, which counties had a higher level of food waste thrown away, but I'll see if I can find those numbers as well, because I'm curious about that too.
So Jan, so we have, what did you say, 6,000 households. What do you think your guesstimate would be as to how many are on well and septic?
Boy, that's a good question. I don't know, but I bet we could kind of figure it out. And I would also gather that that there are an ocean of households that are on well and septic that do use their garbage disposals. Just
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it would be it would improve that life of septic fields and tanks, and it would just be so much better.
Exactly.
And Haley, does Canton Township actively budget for the food collection system? And was that a referendum, or did the township just work it into their budget?
Yeah, so Canton Township had a set block of money that they put towards the pilot program, and then because of they were pleased with the results, so they decided to make it permanent. So the township board, they have now allocated another set amount towards the permanent program every year. So they do allocate money for it. I don't know how they decide how much. I don't know much about that process, but yes, they do pay for it, and it is a set chunk of money.
Okay.
And that's the last of my slides, so I'm happy to answer any other questions you guys have. Whether it's right now or my phone number and email are both on slide number 1. So you guys can share these slides as well. I'm happy to answer any other questions that you guys have in the future too.
So Jeff, do you have the slides and the email with the cost?
There's an
maybe.
email I sent out after
Yeah.
last week that has a couple basic cost outlines. The problem is a lot of it's dependent on scope and how many drop-off sites, if you're doing internal hauling, if you're building your own facility, how involved do you want outside help? So it's hard without having like a perfect, like a vision of an actual exact direction right now to figure out the cost. I mean, I can tell you right now, curbside's probably going to be the most expensive. The internal building your own compost facility, I mean, I would imagine that getting the proper equipment and hiring people to manage that and process that, that would get expensive. The drop-offs are, it depends on how many you have. Canton has 5, and I have those numbers in the email, and I can make sure to forward that on again, so you guys can see some of those numbers that Canton uses.
If you want, I could
Um,
try to do a screen share and show that email.
Yeah, go for it. I'll stop
Okay.
sharing.
All right. Let me try this here. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
And what she's talking about in particular is right here.
Mm-hmm. Weekly tipping of $25 a bin. The the companies that get the material turn it into compost and they sell it, right?
Yes.
So do they pay for any of the cost of getting that material? The companies that do the composting and
No, like, it's an expensive process, and I've been involved in like doing some consulting for various municipalities and other compost sites over the years. And it's a very costly adventure. And I'm talking something very scalable. And we've done feasibility studies as well. It's expensive. The real successful compost sites, Todd Hill's one, Spurt is another, where they kind of like make money on both sides. The ones that don't do so well are the ones that don't have a great end market, don't have nutritional value in their content, don't really pay attention to their mix that they're bringing in. And those are the ones that still have volume in at their sites from like 20 years ago. There's a site in like Salem Township right now that struggles to move material. They definitely get a lot of material, but they struggle to move it because they don't have that quality product. Again, they don't take food waste either. Not that that's a magical elixir, but it's just one of those things about having a viable product that people want. So Spurt, they're always going to charge to bring material in, and they're going to charge to like take their product out, but they'll give you the nutritional value of the product and yield, depending what type of like use you have for it.
you familiar with Dairy Do people? Middle of the state?
I am not.
Oh,
No.
it's they I don't mean to divert too much here. They collect from a lot of dairy farms. You know, the waste from the dairy farms and compost it. So it's a pretty rich compost material and a lot of farmers use it.
And have they had any issues with like Eagle and their runoff? Because the folks who were utilizing up in that neck of the woods, like there's one in Elsie, that we were taking like some beer waste to, and
Huh.
they ended up getting shut down recently.
Mm.
The state came in, and the state's really getting hard on farms and on composters in regard to their runoff.
Yeah, don't know about that,
Okay.
but
Hey, this is Jeff. I've got to sign off right now. We've got family over. Charlie, can you make notes on any further conversation for this?
Sure.
Great,
yeah.
thank you.
And
Thanks
Jeff,
very much.
I'm
Hey,
just,
Jeff.
Jeff, I'm just gonna ask Haley how much energy it took to get it all going, to get it started in the beginning, and we'll report back to you on that. Right? So, see you, Jeff.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
So Haley, that's the question. We don't have anything going on. We got to get it started. We're low on manpower, woman power, and yeah. So did you have a big phone campaign, mailing campaign? How long did it?
So for Canton, they have a very active Facebook page, so they advertise there. They're very active on their website. They advertised there. They talked about at one point doing mailed flyers. We discussed last week maybe having like a compost education day at the farm. And even if it's not decided to use the farm as a compost facility, they have their own compost pile. So you guys could host an education day, allow people to bring in food waste if they wanted, and kind of gauge there, have a survey and see if people are interested there. You could post on your website, maybe a Survey Monkey or something. Or post flyers throughout the community. I don't know if there's large parks that people visit, or a busy supermarket that you could post flyers, town hall. So any place that has heavy traffic, maybe some signs, posters. It depends on the community, because some community, I mean, like I said, Canton, Facebook is how they got most of the message out for the most part.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we could do is, Charlie, you have what, 3,000 households or something like that?
About 3,000 people. Yeah.
People, 900 in some households. Yeah, in one spot, right? And then also we have the co-housing groups. We have 3 co-housing folks. They, it'd be interesting just to take the temperature there to see if they would be interested, because you could have one kind of drop-off station, at the co-housing location. You could have one at Scio Farms, you could have one at the farm, and then, if you go to where there's density and you make it convenient, that could be really interesting. How much space do you need for the drop-off? And what kind of access and that kind of thing?
So if you did like had Spur or Tut Hill Common Hall, all you need is a place that a typical standard garbage truck could get in and out of. Okay. And the collection containers are just a 64-gallon rolling garbage can, so not that much space.
Are those collection points in any retail spots, back of restaurants or back of store? I mean, any businesses volunteer to host them?
We're currently working on that side. So for the pilot, we had a community park, the township's farmers market, a fire station volunteered. We have a temple that volunteered to be a public drop-off site, and a school. So kind of the beauty of hosting a drop-off site, or at least because we're currently in the talks, we're going to talk to the chamber to try to, have access to more businesses that might be interested. The beauty of hosting a site is a lot of places individually are interested in composting, but they'd have to pay for it themselves. For Canton specifically, if one of these private businesses, or, a temple or a school, if they're willing to be open to the public, so collect their own compost, but allow other people to bring in, the township covers that cost. So that's what our next step is in the permanent implementation. So we're not quite there, but we are working on getting to businesses, schools, supermarkets, any place that would have a lot of food waste that would be interested in hosting a public site, so they can use it for themselves and for the public.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that's stirring up a lot of options here. That's great. Yeah. So what would be, do you think we could get at the overall budget from Canton, just you know, what the total costs are and what they bring back as far as the compost itself. And kind of how that works. I'm just thinking if we want to look at that, because we do have a budget in Scio for recycling, you know, kind of programming, which this would fall under basically. And so having an idea of, you know, how we might structure a pilot like that, knowing a little bit more about, because you talked about the tipping costs, but then there was the trucking and the hauling. So it would, you know, what's the best way to kind of get a handle on, you know, what a pilot program might, you know, look like and cost?
Right.
Why don't we do something like send them something with like 1 and 2 locations, a handful of containers, and like kind of do the math in regard to, like, we know their percentages now, 17,000 residents, 6,000 households, and do a comparison, like just say they have, I think you might do a little bit better on the volunteer percentage, but not like much, but you'll do a little bit better. I think just I just think anybody closer to Ann Arbor is going to be more like eager to do something like this than the folks in Canton. That's just my personal belief.
Yeah.
So we could do some quickie math for you and just see what the percentage would be and just say some realistic ballpark costs. Here's what it's going to take. And then you can do a cafeteria plan, take it as little or as much as you wanted. Haley does really everything for the Canton Township. There's really, and that's what they wanted. They wanted hands off. There's no infrastructure in Canton to really have this type of service. So like to field emails, who does that? Well, Haley does that. Who sends out the communication? Haley does it. Who coordinates like compost coming back to the community? She does all that. So it's been successful. They love having her there. And you need somebody like kind of eager that wants or runs it. We kind of mirrored this after the city of Ferndale. And same thing, they had a very enthusiastic director there that kind of took care of it. And they got a grant for that person, but can't do the next best thing. And we're working on grant money as well. Right now, it hasn't come through yet, so we're still working.
Okay, yeah, and I'm also thinking, yeah, I don't have no issue asking WISD if, you know, they'd be interested in this if they had any budget. And is this a year round or is it seasonal?
Year round.
Okay,
For
great.
drop-off sites, it's
Yeah.
year-round.
Yeah.
Curbside can get a little hairy, but the drop-offs is year-round.
Yeah, because the school actually is a year-round facility, so that would be, yeah, and that's right across from the farm. There could be some real interesting things happening there.
Absolutely.
And they have a student population that would, I think, really get into the composting. So I think I'm trying to think of how many students they have, but it's got to be around. I bet you it's 350, something like that, at least at that school. Not year round though. Well, might be. Go ahead, Bob.
So for the pilot program, would it make sense just to have the drop off be at the farm if that's where we're going to have the composting being done, and have people bring it there rather than to the school across the street? I mean, I guess you could have the school collect it and bring it over. The cost, the biggest cost sounds to me like it'd be the trucking of the material from the drop off sites to the compost site.
The issue is going to be, I don't think what he's putting in as a base will support the trucks. That's my concern. Yeah, because it's not paved and yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be a permanent solution there to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a community composting site with certain types of stuff, but I don't think the drop off might not work.
The other thing you have to consider with cost of having your own compost site is, do you have the proper infrastructure and equipment and manpower to effectively turn that material? Because if it's not efficient or effective, it's kind of moot at that point. And depending on how much material, the volume of food waste you're bringing in, that could get pricey as well. with having full-time people there to do the work and the equipment.
So where does Canton Township actually have the composting done?
Um, S- Spur Industries up in Wixom,
So
so
it's
that's
in
a commercial
Wixom, okay.
composting facility or
Okay.
industrial composting facility.
So it's
So
all trucked
they
to Wixom.
bring, yes. And there's also a site in Ann Arbor, Tot Hill Farms, that's closer to Scio Township, that does the same thing. And they pick up.
Yeah, I think Tuthill manages some of the U of M stuff.
Do they? And I wonder if they accept animal waste at Tut Hill. But Haley, I think maybe I'm assuming too much. I think we're gonna just start slowly, and if we can. Jan, do you think I'm off base here saying I think we're gonna try to see if we can work it out with Mike Vestergaard and start composting there? We can have some drop-off spots that get collected and dumped there. I don't think we could expect him to do it. And I don't think he's got time or wants to do it, but
See, Tim, I think the issue will be getting in the trucks. He doesn't have a paved area. You know, you got to bring in the big garbage, you know, those trucks are heavy. That
yeah, well,
take-
yeah, wintertime, that could be a issue, but
Yeah.
might want to pave an area.
Mhm. Yeah, you could do a, you know, a specific strip or something for the trucks. Mhm.
Possibly. Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like, I think what we should, it sounds like what we should do is think about the pilot. It would be good to figure out, just get an idea of, you know, do we do 2 pilot sites or something like that? And then we can, you know, talk to Mike, we can talk to WISD, we can talk to the co-housing, Charlie can talk to Scio Farms, and just see what the response is, and if anyone would be interested in also participating financially in it with the township. That's the other, you know, possibility.
Are you
So
talking about drop-off sites, Jan?
yes, drop off.
Okay.
Yeah. Drop off sites. And just to see, I mean, you know, specifically, you know, some cost sharing, some options, and just see what the appetite is. And then, and, you know, also talk to Mike and Haley, it would be good to get some feedback on for the drop off sites. Do they need it to be paved? How heavy are these trucks, et cetera? Just to see if, you know, the farm could work.
One of our sites is a gravel lot,
Okay, that's good.
so
Yeah, and
I
Tim,
think-
I'm not sure when because he's put in that gravel and so forth, but I don't know what kind of base and compaction and that kind of stuff that he's done there. So,
I can reach out and ask if there's, I'll reach out and ask that question for you.
that'd be great. And then we can kind of see what the, you know, what the appetite is, and you know, see what and I think John's on too, Riser, who's a trustee, and you know, we can kind of just kind of take the temperature a little bit. But it would be good to know the overall, even what, you know, Canton is doing, and with you, your time and so forth. Okay, what does that cost? And, you know, obviously ours would be a different scale, but it might give us some kind of idea whether it fits in the
We'll
current
throw
budget.
together, yeah, we'll throw together like kind of a mock budget based on 1 site, 2 site, 3 sites. It's probably gonna be a little bit of, you know, wiggle room within a certain range, but we'll put something together to you. Or put something together and get it to you, as soon as we can.
Okay, great. And I don't know, I mean, the other thing would be to talk to the county, Tim, too, because, they already have that food toxics drop-off program, and whether or not, a food waste drop-off might,
They do have some property behind the building there.
Mhm.
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 Yeah, I think we could find the drop-off sites. I think we need to flesh this idea out a little bit further and see if Mike Vestergaard wants to participate and help out with it and come up with as many of the specifics as we can. Haley, what you're talking about, that'd be great help for us to get that done.
Yeah, and Tim, I'm also thinking there may be two different things. There may be the compost education, which is really looking at yard composting, garden composting, and so forth that happens at the farm, where they already have material and so forth. And that could be an education for people that are doing home composting. And then in addition, you have the drop-off that takes a lot of material that you really can't put in your home composting efforts.
Mhm.
So different levels of composting, because boy, if we could do some more BPI stuff and so forth, and we could get the restaurants to participate in some of the drop-offs, I mean, that would be a real win. Yeah. Also, if you want to, Haley, there is a composting site for Ann Arbor, and they have like their fees that they charge the restaurants and so forth. And most of those, the restaurants have said, that's way too much for us to be able to add on to our budgets. So they're not really getting a good buy-in from a lot of the restaurants because of the cost. And because of the criteria with the the CMA-W, you have to buy specific products. Yeah.
Definitely isolates some people for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. So, and we have a good, I mean, Jackson Road, and the other thing would be, maybe the DDA would be interested in, participating in this for, all the restaurants and so forth that are around are within in Jackson Road. There
Most
might
of
be
them
some.
are in the DDA district.
Yep. Yeah, and Meyer has a whole sustainability group that now we're in contact with, and that could be another. Lots of possibilities. Yeah, it's just getting down to the dollars, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
The kind of small program that we're talking about to start out,
Mhm.
I just don't envision it being terribly expensive.
No.
But we'll
No.
see, but that's
Mhm.
just my vision of it.
Mhm. Well, there's economies of scale, because those trucks that come in and empty those bins, if they have a bunch of bins, to empty and fill up, it makes it a little more efficient too. You're
And
not.
we right size each drop-off location based on volume, based on usage. I mean, in Canton, we have one site that has 2 bins, and we have one site that has 10. So
Oh,
it's determined based on
Mhm.
how much volume is being brought there. So if we have 5 bins there and only 2 are getting full, we'll get rid of 2 bins.
Mhm.
Cut that cost down real quick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a living program. It's an evolving program. So, and it always will be.
Okay, great. Okay, so Charlie, you and Jeff can follow up, and if we want to maybe assign some contacts just to see we have the emails for the co-housing crew and can ask there. I have contacts at WISD and then Tim, you can talk to Mike. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? And just see what people are, if there's an interest, they'll probably say yeah, and how much.
What about Township Hall? Would that be, in the back where we had the recycling program weekly as a drop-off site?
Mhm. That I think that's a possibility. I think you want to go where you're going to get the volume, and that's why I was trying to, Scio Farms and the co-housing, the more dense areas. restaurants, that kind of stuff. But, you know, Township Hall is handy from, you know, the folks that use the home toxics and,
Kind of central.
yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, well, it's a central
Mhm.
thing about it. And
Yeah.
maybe what you were talking about, Bob, is it's a central spot and people go there anyway, so.
Right.
Yep.
And go buy it all the time.
Yeah, bring us your compost, bring us your tax payment.
Compost more regularly, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. But maybe that's another thing, you get more people visiting, right? And identifying with Scio. Yeah. Okay, well, great. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Oh, great.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have, you know, Canton ahead of us, so perfect.
Yeah.
Great to have
Thanks,
a model to
everybody.
work with.
Mhm.
Thank you guys, and feel free to reach out with any questions, and we'll get those numbers to you as soon as we can.
Great.
Have a great
Haley
evening.
and Mike will be talking again, obviously.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your night.
Bye now.
Thank you.
You too. Hey, Charlie,
Yes,
can you forward that email on to the whole
Yeah.
group?
sure.
Okay.
Hmm.
And
Okay,
who has the presentation? Did we get it?
I've got that. I'll send that too.
Perfect.
great. And we'll go ahead and add that to the you know, the minutes and so forth, and that'll get posted. So other people who
Excellent.
might be interested can look at it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Bob,
Yeah.
pardon me. But Bob, if you and maybe we need a little information that Haley talked about getting to us about various aspects of what Canton is doing, the budget and, you know, this and that, much as we can get from her.
Mhm.
And then we need to kind of make a somewhat clear idea for Mike Vestergaard to be able to consider it. You know, knowing whether or not he's gonna have to get a pad poured and what happens with all that.
It sounded
food.
like she was gonna send it to Charlie and Jeff again,
Mhm.
you know, the new information and then just pass that along.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, we're a little past 8 already, so I think what I want to do is go through some key items from the reports and let's see. Under energy, we still haven't heard from the community energy management grant. They thought by the end of this week we are going to get an award. It's just we don't know how much. We did start work on the solar ordinance. The fire station energy audit is going to happen tomorrow. We did finally find the Homeland had never given the fire station the other inverter link, so we got that today, and so that'll go up on their website as well. We finished the native planting. We had over 25 people there. It was pretty awesome. So thanks for the people who came. It was we got it done. I looked down and it was 11:30 and we were done. So it was pretty amazing.
It was great.
Yeah.
How many plants did you get planted?
Oh, how many flats? They were flats of 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know, 10 flats, I think, something like that. And the milkweed, he didn't bring out because they were waiting for it to get taller, but all of them came from Feral Flora. Bob had a great idea to photograph the garden and you know kind of circle the areas because they were planted in sort of mass plantings, and the seeding won't happen until January. They're working on killing off oh, I have to go plug in. They were working on killing off all the turf grass, so it'll probably be next year by the time we get any of that the restoration underneath and around that area done, but it's in progress.
Sounds good, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to get the grant or the audit done too. Tree fund, we're meeting on tree fund next week with a attorney and Joyce. And that brings up, John, you wanted to talk a little bit about the pollinator resolution. And I think I just emailed that to folks before the meeting. Welcome.
Hello, thank you, Jen. Nice to see you again. It was good seeing you on Saturday. Along with all the other volunteers planning with all those plants by the solar panels. So on May 14th, I brought forward a resolution that was ultimately postponed, and we had a lot of discussion at the board table about it. It was based on a discussion that I had, frankly, with Bob Walsh after a planning commission meeting when we were looking at a parcel of land, a development on it that was next to a vacant parcel. And he said, that'd be a great place for pollinators, for bees. And so I talked to him, then I talked to some people at Michigan State and other folks about possibly, allowing through a pilot program, honeybees to be placed on township parcels on which it would be appropriate to do so, not where there's kids and where those people are. And so it was a resolution to develop a policy to establish a pilot program to allow residents to place hives on certain township parcels. And then as things do, when you get other folks and better minds than mine into the discussion, it became a broader discussion about pollinators generally and what we can do. So it was postponed for additional research regarding, how can we broaden this? Trustee Brazeau recommended talking to a David Hammond from Creating Habitats for Pollinators, which is a 501c3 out of Canton, Michigan, who ironically was on Michigan Public Radio yesterday, if you listen to that radio, talking about his program. And he helps municipalities develop pollinator habitat. So it'll be brought back to the board after there's more input, more research. I've reached out to Mr. Hammond. MDOT has a great program to promote pollinators. There's the Xerces, which starts with the Next Society, and to kind of broaden it to allow native plantings or encourage native plantings on township parcels, whether it's around Township Hall or whether it's on our vacant parcels, kind of reducing turf grass, reducing mowings if we can in the medians, addressing pesticides, especially neonicotinoids, and encouraging developers to incorporate more natives and kind of less turf grass. So I guess my ask of this august body, and I thank you for your volunteership on all these matters, is like, if you have ideas about specific things that the township should be encouraging residents to do, or that we ourselves as a township should be doing on the parcels that we own and manage, feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Jan, who can reach out to me. I see Jan on a regular basis at planning commission meetings. So I guess that's my ask, is to tap your collective brains for input on things that the township can do to encourage pollinators, given the important role they play in our environment, in our food chain, everything. So that's my pitch. You guys have had a long meeting already. I won't take much more of your time. Nice to see you as well, Tim and Kathy. Saw you on Saturday too. Hey, Bob, saw you too.
Yeah, thanks for taking it on, John. It's I think it's an important issue, and I'm glad to see there's talk about it and some degree of acceptance. So
yeah, and the scope can be from a resolution at the board level, and from that, I mean, dealing with our planning commission landscape ordinance, promoting how we use our lands, and the township setting an example, as well as the education of residents and so forth, because That's,
Like
and that is one of the
Saturday,
goals, I think, in the sustainability plan too. So,
Saturday was a great example of what the township can do by leading by example.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Well,
right.
thanks, and we will definitely get back to you
Yeah.
with with some collective thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
follow up with Jan and then let me know. And then
Mhm.
I want to improve the product that was brought forth on May 14th to kind of broaden it. And you folks can help do that if you're interested, and I hope you are.
Great
Yeah.
initiative, John. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Yep. Without the bees, we're in trouble.
Yeah. All right.
And there's also beetles, and there's there's moths, and there's, I mean, pollinators is butterflies. It's kind of this broader things
Yeah.
than bees, but bees play a primary role, to be sure. But it's also butterflies. It's also a lot of moths. It's bats. It's birds. So it's a lot of things, but bees play a big role.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and is PPP also going to give some feedback?
Yeah, PPP supported it, and I'll try. We meet again next Wednesday. I'll kind of give them an update too, but they supported the resolution.
Mhm. Mhm. Great.
All right,
Okay,
appreciate
super.
you all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, John.
All right. And then mobility, thanks to a group of people, we did get the transportation grant in. Kathy, did they happen to say when the review committee was going to meet? It's probably on SEMCOG's schedule. I was going to look that up and I didn't, but we're supposed to, I think, know sometime this month. You're muted. Yeah.
You're muted, Kathy. Kathy.
I think that those grants are kind of an ongoing thing, so I'm not sure. I think they, do them often, but I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it to find out exactly when we.
Yeah, I think there's a specific review committee that meets and after the staff evaluates them and makes the final decision. And Mandy Gruel is one of them. So that's really nice. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think also the supervisor in Ann Arbor Township.
Oh yeah, Diane O'Connell.
She's on the committee that helps decide who gets the grants. I think
Right.
Mandy's on the executive committee, but
Mhm.
yeah, so
Yeah, so hopefully, good Chris.
Yeah.
And we did end up getting letters of support from the road commission, the city of Ann Arbor, city of Dexter, geez, who else? Huron River Watershed Council, but just a whole litany of people that will kind of participate in the work for Jackson Road. So that's cool. Oh, and Watts. That was another key one. Road Commission and Watts. Yep. All right. Thank you, Materials and Waste, Resilience. No, anything else? Oh, Tim wrote a really nice article on Mike Vestergaard's plans for that agricultural education center, and so that along with a little update on the native planting kind of thing will go into the newsletter. Kathy wrote a short article on supporting public transit, and we're not sure if that's going to get combined with the main article or be a separate little part of our report, but so thank you. I have to reach out to Chris Ferrone. I have not heard from him. I bet you he's really busy at work. I know sometimes folks working for car companies get nailed with overtime and things, so he may be up to his in work, but I will touch base with him because I really do want that article on his EV
I do have a couple things to report, Jan, but I can.
Yeah,
zip
go
through it
ahead.
quick. I did finally get a chance to talk to our relatively new manager at Scio Farms.
Mhm.
In particular, the question about Stevens. Unfortunately, just before I went to talk to her, everything went to heck in the office and she was taking phone calls. There was nobody to help her. People were pouring in. It was a zoo. But She did say she believed one of the office staff people had actually asked Stevens about recycling, and she thought the answer was no, that they did not do that or wouldn't do it. But she was gonna have that person call me back, and that has not happened. And I just haven't had a chance to follow up on that. I asked her about those coffee hours and, us getting in to do some promotional things. She did not like that idea because where they do it is literally in that office area where all the action is, and it's a relatively small area. When I thought about it, I think it would just be too much happening in that little area. However, she said what would be good though is we're gonna do our community summer, this fair-like thing that we do. She didn't give me the date, but it's gonna be in July. And one of the things they're gonna do is have vendors there to have tables set up and do whatever they want to do. Great opportunity for us.
Oh,
So as soon as
yeah.
I get the date,
Mhm.
I'll tell her that, let you know and tell her, put us down for something.
Great.
We'll be there.
Excellent. Excellent. Kathy.
One thing I wanted to bring up in terms of resilience, maybe just throw it out there in case it's something we want to think about at some point. I happened to come across an article or two within the past week about how apparently manufactured home communities like Scio farms are much more at risk for heat-related deaths during heat waves than the general general place. Most of this information is coming from Arizona, so it's maybe not quite so applicable here, but we're talking about climate change and maybe something to keep an eye on. And some places, especially in Arizona, there's even a Michigan company that manufactures these homes that's got a lot of information about measures you can take to mitigate severe heat in the manufactured homes. So I don't know if that's something we want to look into for the resilience group or.
Yeah,
at some
believe
point.
me, without air conditioning, these things get very hot.
I imagine. And
Mhm.
apparently, at least in Arizona, they've had problems with places that don't allow any planting of trees.
Mm,
There's an awful lot of pavement going on and everything
Yeah.
else, and lack of insulation. So
What-
anyway,
what-
just
Yeah, that might be an interesting thing just to see what the vulnerability is. The key thing they were talking about with heat is if you have a power outage associated with heat, that's where it gets dicey too. Okay. Oh, thank you. That's good.
just thought I'd pass that on.
Bob.
I'm not part of the mobility group, but you've got Millage Educational Committee listed there. Is that for the Renew and Restore
Yeah.
initiative? Did we already say it, or should we say that the Road Commission is going to be doing a webinar on that? It's going to be June 24th at 11:30 a.m. And on their website, they have a Zoom link, so it can be done in person or by Zoom.
And you just went on mute again.
Do we have a chat feature on this?
We should. Let me
yeah, we
just see
do.
if it's
We do.
Yep.
Yep.
That's gonna be on the millage or on the road commission millage roads something. You're on mute again. Bob, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thought I was holding down the button. It's Renew and Restore Roads and Non-Motorized Millage. So it's for
Interesting.
both roads and the non-motorized.
Motorized thing. Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that was up.
I didn't
It's
either.
up, yep, and it says it's proposal A, and it'll be on the ballot. Let's see, does it say it's going to be on the ballot? Yes, come on. I thought it was going to be on the August ballot, but I can't.
I
see
bet
it
it's
right
on
I think-
August if they're having it.
I think it was August. I saw something go by about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So I was trying to see how I could post this there we go, in the chat. So do you see that, Kathy? We could put it in the minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, and we should get that, more of that out. Can you also, Bob, send that to Mary Gillis?
Sure.
So she can put it on the site. She can also put it on our Facebook page. And I know, send it to Chris Chang and see if he could get it on, he was posting some things on Nextdoor, I think. Because I mean, this aligns perfectly with some of the other things that we're trying to do. Yeah,
Yep. Okay.
great,
I'll send it to those two.
great, thank you. Okay, I did forward the Michigan Green Communities Challenge Report, and what I'd like the different focus groups to do is take a look at it and see. It gives an idea of, you know, what's in progress. I think it would be good to take a look at, you know, what our priorities are to finish this year out. We were really actually pretty close to getting gold on it, but I've also asked Janine Pratt to take a look at the health end, because that was one aspect that we hadn't really considered, except for saying we should look at health and wellness, you know, but we don't have any specific objectives, and so there might be some good resources that would enhance the work that we're doing and putting health a little more forward in our plan. Okay, and I think we can wait, and if people, what would be good is to start thinking about who we want to invite. I think I have the layout of, I forgot, I have to look it up, but I think we have about 16 tables that we'll be able to put out and rent for people to be under the tent or under the little 8x8 pop-up. So we should start listing the folks that we thought had good content last year, and obviously the Scio committees too. So we start getting out the invitations and knowing who's going to be tabling at that event. And then anything else from SEMCOG, Kathy? I know I'm rolling kind of quickly because we're already almost at 8:30.
Yeah. Let's see. I was actually just there at a meeting for the Healthy Climate Task Force yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
They did that, the priority action, the priority climate action plan was already done, and that was the one for deciding who would get these first grants. And that's all been sent in. A package was sent in. It looks like Ann Arbor got pretty good sized grant for their geothermal.
Mm-hmm.
You know about their geothermal plan? They have a plan for community geothermal heating and cooling system, and they're getting $588,000 for that. So
yeah, I think they're trying to make the Bryant neighborhood climate carbon neutral. Yeah, right.
And they're making that into one of their community centers and resiliency centers and everything as well. Yep. Anyway, now as of yesterday, we're starting to work on their comprehensive climate action plan, which is broader reaching, more things. It's more what we want to get done by those deadlines in 2050, and how we go about doing that. And the big push this summer and into the fall is going to be getting feedback from all of the interested parties, everybody that could have a good say in this. Community input, there's going to be all sorts of meetings and things set up, and open houses, and they're looking for suggestions for community input. And it's kind of a two-way engagement as well. Not only do they want to get input from, say, things like WAVE, you know, giving input into what our priorities are going to be, all these organizations that would have a say in things, but they also want to in the process, educate people about what we're trying to do and what the goals are and how we can reach them. And they're really looking for buy-in from elected officials especially. They want to know that the elected officials out there understand it, and it's very important for those of us at the local level to be putting together our own climate action plans and getting our elected officials involved. So that's just kind of where we are at this point, trying to engage the elected officials and getting all the feedback that we can.
Would it be appropriate for Scio to like host a meeting? Because we could do a hybrid even, if they wanted to come this far west and in.
Yeah, I did try to, as part, they've actually hired an organization, a nonprofit in Detroit that's been very good about getting just people on the street involved and helping them to understand and getting their feedback and getting them to volunteer. And it's like a community ambassadors kind of program. And they want to help train people at the local levels how to get programs like that going. So I had a chance to sit down at lunch with one of the engineers from SEMCOG, and he was saying, yeah, we could run a SEMCOG university about it and we get people down here. I said, it would be really nice if instead of getting people down to Detroit, you did it Zoom or something. And he said, yeah, maybe we could even get something to come out to the Ann Arbor area to get everybody in Washtenaw County in or something. So I tried to kind of advocate for that. But yeah, that might be a good idea too. And then Ann Arbor people could come out here if we could find a place to do it here.
Well, even, I mean, we could do the Western Washtenaw group. Yeah, which gets excluded from a lot of SEMCOG's planning stuff.
Half of them are not members though too. You have to remember that.
Oh, that's true. Guess we have to figure out who that is.
Yeah, Washington County is.
Yeah. So and with the hybrid, that the technology we have, it's some of the best. I mean, actually, for as small as we are, we have good technology. So
yeah,
it would be good. Well, keep that in mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. Public comment. Anyone want to add? Pam?
Nope. Nothing. Other than I really enjoyed everything tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. With that, any revisions or additions to the minutes? All right.
Motion to approve.
All right. Supported by Bob. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're down to the bare bones here. Okay.
Yep.
Then the only other announcement that I have is I will send it out to you. The 2030 district is having its annual summit at WISD on the 26th. There are 4 workshops. And actually, we're going to be talking a little bit about HVAC rooftop replacement options, and which keys right into what Scio's doing. There's going to be the urban planner lawyer is going, and the team that did all the research and so forth for Canton Township is going to be presenting on Canton Township's update to their tree preservation ordinance, and answering questions and so forth. So that's a good one for like planning commission folks. There's going to be one on financing. Michigan Saves is going to take the leadership role in that. And then the last one probably isn't that interesting for you guys, but Ann Arbor's got their final draft of their green rental housing ordinance, and they're going to be presenting that. And so that's more of a landlord thing, but at least 3 of those workshops people from Scio should be interested in. So I'm going to try and get that sent out. But especially for our planning commission members should really come to the one on the tree ordinance. So okay, with that, we just have our dates down there. Any other announcements from anyone else? All right, excellent. With
Move
that,
to adjourn.
yes. a really good meeting. Thank you.
Yes.
The composting stuff is interesting because and Tim, I think we can do a combination of, something where people can get their hands dirty at the farm, and understand how to do it themselves, and then also have something that's a drop off for, people want that, are the more grab and goes. Yeah. So I think because both are important.
Yep.
Work in
Okay.
progress, but I think we got some traction.
Yeah, indeed. Yay. Okay. Thanks everyone, and have a great night, and see you soon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bob,
Right.
let me know if you and Jeff would like some help fleshing that out for Mike Vestergaard.
Okay, and that would be Charlie and Jeff.
Mhm.
Me? Oh,
I think it's Charlie and Jeff
Yeah.
you meant,
Me
Charlie and Jeff.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
but thank
Alright.
you.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Bob, I'm going to talk to you about focusing on some water. Since you're doing the Huron River Watershed Council,
Okay,
maybe shifting you to a water focus group,
okay,
since materials is
let me know about it.
going strong.
It is, it really is.
And-
Okay, good.
So that might be a good way of giving Janine, some support. And I'm going to try and recruit, someone else to work on, the natural ecosystems piece, which would, support what John's trying to do with the pollinators and some of our other ordinance stuff. Maybe
Sounds great.
maybe I can get Jackie, once things settle down, and because she really did an ocean of work
Yep.
on that, the tree fund.
How is she doing?
I haven't talked to her in about a month, but I think things were, she was wrapping some things up, but she got Lyme disease again,
Hmm.
the second round.
Jackie Corto.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
All right.
sounds like a good move.
Hi, Eric. Everybody.
Okay. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.